Hello there. Today I'm going to show you how to use 3D Studio Max R3.1 to create a simple castle scene. I am not an expert at this version of the program, so bear with me. Alright, so first we're going to go to our top view and we're going to enable snap. You see that little magnet in the bottom. We want that on because what it does is it makes it so that things snap to the grid, which we definitely want. And I'm going to Control Z and undo that. So, first of all, under our Shapes tab, right over here, we can draw lines and things like that. This may make it easier for us to create our castle. We can do the castle from different angles, so on the front view, we can draw the entrance and whatnot. On the top view, we can draw all the different shapes. So I think I'm going to start with just making some simple lines. And we want that. We'll just make sure we snap it into the place every time. Got that. And then we got one of our shapes. But that isn't really complete, is it? Close the spline. And then we're going to go to our sub-object vertex editor. Change it to the segment. We don't want this segment. This segment is kind of, we just want it to be a line. So we right click it. We hit line. Now it's fixed. Now we have a object that we can now utilize for something. So what we're going to do is extrude it. We're going to choose an amount of, not enough, how about 200? Alright, so that's a pretty nice castle thing, I suppose. So to finish this castle, we're going to do rectangle. We can draw a bunch of little pieces that go into the castle. They're all going to need to get extruded. So let's draw a bunch of those. So we're going to select and link. Now all these are linked together, so if we move them, they all move together, as you can see. This will make it easier to fix our design here. We just have to hold down Control and deselect the frame. Now we only have these selected. We can now hit extrude. And guess what? Now we have everything extruding all at once. We want to change our z-axis thing so that it's a little bit less messed up. How about 200 up? There we go. And then we make y 0, x 0, 200, 10. Okay. Now we got some randomly colored cubes. You might want to change those. Now they're all gray. Also gray. And then I'm going to check auto grid. Alright, that should do it. So we're going to go to line. We're going to draw the wall interior of this structure. And now that we have auto grid on, you can see that it's behaving. Okay, it didn't do any weird stuff this time, so we're good. Now we need to hit the modifier tab over here, and then we're going to hit extrude. But this time, instead of extruding that way, we're going to extrude in the reverse direction. Because we kind of need... This now has a floor. To this tab, go into compound objects. Just select this, hit Boolean, and then go to pick operand B, because that's going to subtract it from our object. And what do you know? So now, our castle segment is now hollow. We're going to go look around by hitting arc rotate, which is this little thing that I highlighted. And what do you know? Now we have one of the castle pillars, but it's still not done. Let's see how it would look if we make a hole like this. And then when we extrude it, we just make it 2 bricks tall, and then we can rearrange it. We will also set auto grid. We'll keep that active. Alright, so let's put this like right towards the top. We can see our front view. What does that look like if we use compound object, Boolean, pick operand B, cut it out? Alright, so let's see what we did. So, now our castle has a nice little window. Okay, so let's just do that. Too tall, and then let's position it same way. Just align it so that it's roughly on par with the grid. Let's hold down shift and then move our little box just like that. And then let's also do shift again. And we can just type in the value. Actually, that wasn't the right value. Let's try that again. We'll align that again. Okay. And then let's just review it from every angle. So we got window on that side, window on this side, window on that side. We will just keep adding operands, I guess. There we go. Let's see if we got it right. We got a hole in there, hole in there. Okay, we somehow messed up the last one. Funny. Yeah, the last one got messed up. We will reselect the Boolean tab. There we go. As you can see, that looks pretty strange because there's no floor. So we're going to change our field of view. Tell what I'm doing if I go in here. Alright, so that's a little bit better. Okay, that's starting to get a little crazy. We just want it to be a little bit possible to see the windows. As you can see, there's different options we have here. I think I'm going to do 2.5. That seems to be grabbing the sections properly. And as you can see, close the spline, no problem. So now this will be our floor for this room. We just need to, of course, extrude it. However, right now it is extruding in reverse, so that's not good. We're going to need to make it a little bit thicker than that. Must use the Z coordinate to move it down a little bit until it looks right. A little bit weird, but acceptable. At least now we can fly through it, and it doesn't look too weird. We're going to save our project because it's probably a smart idea. Castle 1. How do we texture this before we start copying this and constructing the rest of the castle? Well, the solution is we need to go to modifiers and do UV Wmap. If we don't do that, then nothing has textures. It's all just plain. We're going to do box and see how that looks. That might be enough. And then we're going to go to our material editor, thing with the orbs, and we're just going to assign a random material to this, but we're going to change it. So you can see there's all these different types of materials. Well, I'm just going to do ray trace because everything needs ray tracing. Then go to diffuse, bitmap, and then we're going to use some of our textures. I went ahead and used an AI to generate completely insane textures that might be a little bit high res. So let's go to our latest. Let's make the floor out of whatever this crazy material is. Okay. We can go to our render tab and hit render, but this preview window is far too small. Let's do 1080p. That's the safe res. Now look at our floor. Completely nuts, right? Very detailed. In fact, we can go even further. So you see this tiling tab, well, let's make it a little bit more dense by hitting 2. If you have a texture that sucks and it doesn't tile properly, you can hit mirror and it will try to fix the texture for you. In fact, sometimes it'll make cool results even if it does. You can also change how it is tiling. So let's say it just doesn't look right. You have like an object that's not working right. You can change these options. It'll change which side that it's prioritizing, basically. You can also change the angle of the texture. Let's say you have a texture that's kind of diagonal and just doesn't look right. You want it to be seamless, kind of. You can rotate it. You can add noise. We'll add some noise just for the sake of being cool. See what that looks like. Whoa. Yeah, as you can see, adding noise does some crazy distortions. I don't know if I want that. Tone it down a little bit. Okay. And then you can also apply cropping. So let's say part of this texture was good and then the corners were all like messed up. I could stretch this a little bit and then crop it. I don't want to do that, but just as an example. You can also change the alpha source. Let's say you have a transparent partially texture. It's like a TGA or it's a PNG. You can use the RGB intensity, which we aren't going to do. You can also change the RGB offset. Let's say your texture is too dark, too bright. You want to tone it down or you want to increase the saturation. RGB level will do that. Offset will do that. The output amount, let's say it's just not quite the right levels. You can tweak all these, bump them out. Alpha from RGB intensity, which you can set if it's a little bit transparent. Let's change the tiling again, though. I don't think that was dense enough. Okay. Well, that's actually a seamless texture right there that our AI generated for us. It's gorgeous. So, we're going to go a step further. And then we're going to, instead of being boring, we're going to go to Maps. And we're going to click on this and change it to also be ray traced by just choosing that. We'll keep the old map as a submap, because why not? Hit reflection. What do you know? Now it's doing something kind of weird. I don't know if that's exactly what we wanted, but I'll go with it. diffuse it. We can also add a bump map. So let's say I want to have texture that kind of like matches something I have. I can do that, and then I can tile it, 4x. Now look at my floor. My floor is now made of some kind of crazy reflective stone. Now our bump map's a little bit more intense. Diffuse, we can change that color to be like a purple or something. A dark purple. We might also want to add a gradient to our diffuse because it seems like it's kind of missing something. Keep old map as submap. So now we've got blue, we've got purple. And you can see still a little bit of ray tracing happening. Maybe need to tweak that a little bit because that doesn't look quite right. We will also ray trace this other segment to be reflected. Now it's got a little bit of a gradient. Then we'll make it mirrored so that it syncs. There we go. So now our floor's got like some cool little hue on it. And it's ray traced. Extra good. Okay. And then we'll make it two-sided. Because we can. Ray tracer controls. Reflect fall off can be. How about 330? Good enough. Then we'll make the diffuse a little bit more extreme. Now we've got vaporwave floor. Alright. Well, that was a lot of overbuilt floor shaders, so let's go to the next thing. So, we're going to apply the same texture just because I'm not feeling like making the rest yet. Interesting. What does it look like from the perspective view? Holy shit. Okay then. We might just make a variation of this, because that does look quite impressive. But expect that if you animate that, it will take you a literal century. Let's change our bump map to something more reasonable for this scene, because clearly this isn't it. So we're going to call this brick map. I think I'm going to trust this one. Or can I? Oh, wait a moment. I need to apply that first. We're going to rename this material brick walls. Whoa. Yeah, now we got some brick walls that are vaporwave textured. And then we got a floor that's like a stone. As you can see there, that's Shrek standing on top of the worst Intel graphics card. And all these materials were possible to make with 3ds Max. Then there's a water effect. Same idea. And then there's a CRT that we made. And then there's a picture we made of a ultra 8K resolution Shrek metal car statue that's ray traced. So yeah, we're gonna save this as Vaporwave Castle 1. So let's change the color a tad. Something a little darker. How about we'll make the walls kind of navy blue. As you can see, our render is extremely intense. Starting to look close to real, but as you can see, we're overdoing it a little bit. Just a bit. I think that we got to tone that down. So we're going to go to this line. Yeah, we'll just draw it the regular way. Oh. We'll just make a circle. Alright, then we're just going to extrude it. Just do it that way. Yeah. Okay, so the circle. Okay, so we got that window. And then we're going to do the other one. The other one can go views back. Okay. So we'll just make another circle. This one's going to be a little bit off center because a little bit weird the way that we did it. Future, just try to make things as centered as you can to avoid that problem. There we go. Okay. And then now we can go back to selecting our Boolean, pick operand B. And then, oh yeah, we forgot something critical here. We were supposed to extrude this first. Correct. Okay. That's better. Alright, so now Boolean, pick operand B. Got it. Fire tab, extrude. And then we'll just do it all the way through just because, well, it seems like it's perfectly symmetrical on this one. Move it over a little bit. And then let's go to our compound object, Boolean, pick operand B. And what do you know? Standard objects. Make a plane. We'll do the plane from the front view or the back view. Let's see. So we're going to draw it so that it's just the right size. That might be a little bit too small. Just need it to go just around. It goes inside. Alright. So there's window 1. We just need to move it in a little bit, because that's a little bit too... Okay. Alright, now we're going to need to make the window actually have some kind of texture. Logically speaking, we can hit this button, assign material to selection. Let's see what it does. Alright, so I see our window is in there. That's good. Now, so we're going to need to apply a bitmap. We can do that a couple ways. I'll just use diffuse and hit a bitmap of some sort. We could use this amethyst texture, or use something fancier. We have quite a lot of AI textures to work with. Right, there's so many that I don't even know which one we should be using. Let's try using this. We're going to change the camera so that it's facing the window, because I don't know. Got it. So we have like a stained glass window, but it doesn't look like one, does it? So let's fix that. We can do that by applying opacity. So stained glass window is probably like half that opacity, logically speaking. And then we can also add a bump map. So I think that maybe one of these textures would probably match a stained glass window. Let's see, which one do you think? We could try this one. That one looks kind of like something I would see in a pattern. I don't know if that's bump mapped enough. We will change it so that it is tiled more aggressively on the bump map. And then we will also make the bump map like a lot more intense just to see what it looks like. Starting to see the bump map bleed in a little bit. But maybe that's still not enough. Let's make the bump map like crazy intense. Ah, now the bump map is showing us that it is stained glass. Look at that. So now every window will have some kind of stained glass pattern on it. We just have to copy this material, and we're going to rename each of these. I'm going to call this one, first one I'm going to call stained glass 1. Second one I'm going to call stained glass 2. So we're going to change the image for this one so that they're not all the same. We just take our vaporwave sky images. Got that one. Let's do that one. All right. Well, now we have our stained glass here. We will hold down Shift and drag it right in the center of the other window. So this window, we will double check to make sure it's actually inside the frame. Got it. We will make that one the other window. Let's see what that looks like. As you can see, we've got quite the imagery here. Looks pretty aesthetically pleasing. All right. Now we just need to make 2 more. That looks pretty surreal. Quite an image right there. Doesn't look so weird on the outside. Now the outside will have a bit of a texture. Right. I guess it does. There we go. Now we got one of the castle pieces. let's just go inside again just to make sure that everything's right. Got a beautiful castle with a crazy floor. It looks like it's made of water, but that's fine. Anyhow, now we can save our project as version 3. Just save periodically so you don't screw up your projects. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to group this and we're going to call it Castle Segment 1. And then now this is a group. So we're going to need to position these correctly because right now I don't think it's at 0. We want everything to be at 0 other than Z, which will be at 100. And then we can change the Y to be 100. Or actually maybe 200 in this case. And then we can make a copy of it. And we will also position this. However, it will be negative 200. There we are. And then we can select both, and we can make them go negative 200. Or actually, let's undo that. Let's do it one by one. This one will go negative 200 in the X axis. This one will go negative 200 in the X axis. We will copy it again. This one's going to be regular 200 in the X axis. And then we'll copy this one. And this one's going to be negative 200 in the Y axis. And 200 in the X. So what have we got? Now we have a perfectly symmetrical layout of the castle elms, or whatever you would like to call those. Let's render what we have. What do you know? So we have part of the castle now. So castle walls are usually decently thick. We just have to figure out exactly how thick. Then we have to make an archway. I'm going to say that looks about right. However, I think it's too tall, so we might want to do negative 170. Maybe negative 150. And then we're going to want to snap it into place. So we got to change our Z so that it is 150. All right. So there's that. That looks to have fixed the problem. So we'll just keep the walls about this tall. A little bit shorter, but I think it looks about right. Okay, that clearly did not go right. Alright, so let's do... No, that was not it either. Okay, that'll do it. Close spline. So now we have like an entranceway that looks about right. So the key is going to be that we extrude this a solid amount. And then we reposition it in the Y until it goes through. We won't see the bottom of this because it's going to be cut out. But let's just see how it looks. Pick operand B, and there's our archway. Now our castle has a little archway, as you can see. We will texture it with the toned down version of the brick wall texture. You can see it doesn't really have any texturing. That's because it's not UV mapped. We probably want to UV map it. But we're going to save first, so that we don't mess up the texturing. Let's UV map it. There we are. So now it's got a bit of a texture. I don't think it's quite right, but we can adjust it. And it's very reflective, as we can see. This here is going to be our floor. Which will make basically perfectly flat. Goes right under the entrance. Doesn't that look amazing? We can now make this grass texture thing a lot bigger. Modifier. We'll change the length to 1000. Change the width to 1400. In fact, let's go even bigger. Let's do 14,000 and 10,000. That's more realistic. So you can see our castle in this grass field. Our grass field doesn't tile very well, so we'll mirror it. That looks a little better. And we just gotta add a environment skybox. We will actually do that with a sphere. Yeah, a very big sphere should do it. Change the bitmap to one of our skyboxes. Everyone seems spherical. There we go. Now we've got a crazy skybox. That looks decent. We got a nice little skybox. I just had to adjust the water more. The ray tracing. I want some refraction. There we go. Starting to get there. I also try doing it with reflection to see the difference in graphic. Then we can add some environmental effect. Volumetric fog. I'm gonna make a gizmo atmospheric apparatus. We want a spherical gizmo. It doesn't really need to be that big. Needs to suggest there's some fog. Big gizmo. That's it. Color of the fog can be white for now. Let's see what it looks like. I don't know if I like that. Let's make the fog dark. Okay, it's basically perfect now. We have as you can see, it's absolutely ethereal. So we're going to save a picture of that. Vaporwave Castle 3. The inside even looks nice. The only thing that we might be missing now is that floor is a little bit oversaturated. We must fix that under our material editor. So that material must be this, I think. What is this material? It's important to name your materials so you don't forget what everything is. Alright, that must be it. Okay. So we're going to output amount is going to be reduced. Not quite it. Don't think that was the one we wanted.
caustic tiles 2. That's the one we wanted. We will make it tile 2x. Maybe that's still not enough. Make it tile 4x. And there we are. We got our caustic floor. It just needs to also have the ray tracing added back. Ray tracing may be too intense because I cannot see the floor now. (4x) output RGB level. We'll make it a little aggressive so we can fix that. Add the purple. Purple can be dark. We will save our project. That looks completely crazy. And then lastly, we kind of want a castle flyby, don't we? So to do that, we're going to make a free camera. And the free camera is going to be inside the sphere, so we don't want it to go outside the sphere. Keep that in mind. We might want to do this from the top-down view, because otherwise we'll mess it up. And then just so we don't screw up our other stuff, let's change it to only effect camera. One of two ways. I can either use motion tab, trajectories, and I can add keys and things here, or I can just like record an animation. Just for proof of concept, because this animation is going to take forever to render. We're only going to make it an extremely short animation. We will make it stay at 30 FPS, and it'll only be like 4 seconds long. So let's do that. Alright, so we will start from the top view because it's probably the easiest. We'll hit animate. So we have our camera selected. Now we're going to make our camera start right here. So there's a keyframe right there. And then 1 second later, 30 seconds frames in, it's going to like do that. And then it's going to go down a little bit. And then it's also going to go left a tiny bit. And it's also going to rotate a little bit. We want the whole camera, the whole castle in there. The castle to do that, yeah. Then we're going to go to number frame 60. And the camera is going to start moving. And start moving. And rotate again. And then we're going to go 90 frames in. And then we're going to go that way and this way and rotate it again. And it's going to tilt a little bit. But it's also going to tilt a little bit in the other way, like that. Like, sort of like in Unreal. And then at the very end, it's going to start moving towards the castle. A little bit like that. And we're going to rotate a little bit. So let's see what it looks like. So we got, and then, well, this animation isn't long enough, so time configuration. We'll just have to make it longer, unfortunately. The 120. Another 60 seconds. We'll do 180. Okay. And then camera's going to start moving. It's going to go right through that window. But there's a plot twist. It is going to start rotating. Because it's cool like that. And it's going to rotate. Again. So we got our whole animation doing some crazy stuff. You know what? This isn't insane enough. We need to go through the whole castle. It is no longer fogged to hell and back. What happens if we move it like this? It's still fogged to hell and back. Okay. And then we'll just double check. Sometimes it does this, so I just want to make sure it doesn't screw it up. Actually, that looks basically perfect, so I think we're fine now.